I am Reed, just a normal 27-year-old guy talking about building wealth and getting your life together in your 20s. Hey there, my dear friends. It is so good to be with you today. We diving into something that has been making a lot of noise, something that might feel a little overwhelming, a little bit like a roller coaster ride. I am talking about the SpaceX IPO. You know, it is that big, splashy event where a company starts trading its shares on the stock market for the very first time. And let me tell you, it has got everyone buzzing, from seasoned investors to folks like us who are just trying to figure out how to make our money work a little harder. But here's the thing, when we hear about these massive valuations and eye-popping numbers, it is easy to get swept away, right? It is easy to feel like we missing out if we not jumping in right away. But as your old friend, I want us to take a deep breath together, a really deep breath, because investing, especially in something as monumental as SpaceX, it is not just about the numbers. It is about understanding what we putting our hard-earned money into. It is about making choices that align with our peace of mind, not just chasing a quick buck. You see, a lot of people are looking at SpaceX and thinking, wow, this is it. This is the next big thing. And they not wrong to be excited. It is exciting, but when we look at the valuation, like $1.8 trillion, it is almost impossible to wrap our heads around that, isn't it? It is like trying to imagine how many grains of sand are on a beach. It is just so vast. And honestly, if you tried to build a traditional financial model for a company like SpaceX, it would be incredibly difficult because it is not a traditional company in any sense of the word. It is different, it is unique, it is aiming for the stars, literally. So when we see these numbers, these incredibly high valuations, it tells us something really important. It tells us that a lot of what is happening here is about speculation. It is about hope. It is about a belief in a future that hasn't quite arrived yet. And there is nothing wrong with hope. Believe me, hope is a beautiful thing. But when it comes to our money, we want to be clear-eyed about what we're doing. So let us talk about what SpaceX is all about and what this IPO really means. First off, you might not know this, but SpaceX is short for Space Exploration Technologies Corporation. And, you know, looking back, space, etc., would have been a pretty funny name, but hey, missed opportunities, right? The opportunity the investing world has grabbed onto, though, is a big one: 555,555,555 shares of the company S stock, all going on sale for $135 per S share. That is a lot of shares. And a lot of dollars, if you multiply those numbers out, this IPO raises about $75 billion for SpaceX. Now, that sounds like a colossal amount, and it is. But here are two important things to keep in mind. First, 555 million shares, that is actually less than 5% of the company's total stock. So it is a relatively small portion that is being offered to the public. Second, at that IPO price of $135 a share, when you multiply it across all of the company's 12 or 13 billion shares, that is how we get to that mind-bending market cap of nearly $1.8 trillion. To put that into perspective, that value knocks one of the 10 most valuable companies on Earth off the list. It even beats Tesla's market cap, which, let us be honest, tells us that Elon Musk is now not just a rich man. He is a very, very rich man. Some even say he is on his way to becoming the world's first trillionaire. And Tesla is actually super important to this whole story because it gives us our best clue into explaining how on Earth SpaceX is worth somewhere in the ballpark of $2 trillion. Maybe more, maybe less. Who knows? That is the fun of it, I guess. Let me show you what I mean. Tesla Motors is now a publicly traded company. When Tesla first went public 16 years ago and started selling shares to the public, let's say you bought one share, it would have cost you $17. But fast forward a decade and a half, you don't own just one share anymore. Tesla split its stock, meaning they subdivided everyone's shares many times over, 15 times to be exact, across two massive splits. It is the same $17 value, just broken into more pieces. So, the split-adjusted price of each share was something like $1.13. Each share today is worth, last I checked, just under $400. So, in those terms, you have transformed a $17 investment into almost $6,000 today. That is crazy, isn't it? That is like investing on the stock market and getting compounded annual returns of 44% every year for 16 years. When we all generally told to expect an average of like 6 or 8%, maybe 10, if you are really smooth sailing. Tesla is a company that throughout its history had a pretty big rise in valuation. So in that sense, Tesla is sort of this unique outlier on the stock market, right? A big part of what made Tesla's meteoric ascent so incredible was that when it went public, it was actually losing money. It was worth just a tiny fraction of what it is worth. Now, its only car for sale was the Roadster, but investors saw value because they saw potential. They weren't pricing shares based on what the company was pulling in then. They were banking on electric vehicles becoming more popular, batteries, charging stations, infrastructure becoming better. They were hoping that maybe one day this company could build a car capable of driving itself, and frankly, they were betting that Elon Musk was the man to do it. It is like buying a lottery ticket on Elon Musk and his ability to execute and do things that have never been done before. It has been a very successful stock for the people who have held on to it. Tesla is now the most valuable automaker in the US with a market cap of about $85 billion. Tesla has become the world's most valuable car maker. From the point of view of an investor, SpaceX just might follow that same trajectory, and today it has a big advantage over Tesla in that it doesn't need to prove it is a real business. It is already the global leader in its business as day traders woke up this morning eager to get a piece of SpaceX. SpaceX was launching a Falcon 9 rocket into low Earth orbit. This rocket pioneered the concept of reusability. It has flown hundreds of missions and its payload this time, dozens of Starlink satellites. SpaceX has thousands of them in low Earth orbit, more than every other company and government combined. This global communications network makes SpaceX billions of dollars every year. And these things, the Falcon 9, Starlink, they aren't even the most impressive things about SpaceX. The company has high hopes for Starship, the company's fully reusable super heavy lift launch vehicle meant to transport cargo and crew to space, the moon, Mars, and beyond. SpaceX also pours billions of dollars into AI, the company's artificial intelligence wing, which means if you think about Tesla and how its core business all those years ago was just electric cars, SpaceX's aerospace, its communications, and its AI all wrapped up into one that puts it at the forefront of everything. So here's where we bring all of that back down to earth, starting with the valuation, the IPO price of $135 a share, putting the company market cap at somewhere around $1.77 trillion. That is nowhere near in the same universe as what this company actually pulls in each year in dollars and cents. It is essentially all pure long-term money that is being priced, and I can show you the math of it, even though I can tell you right now, it is just so far out of whack, I just don't even see how it matters. As I mentioned before, I think when most people think of SpaceX, they think of the splashy rocket launches. This is a core part of the business satellite communication that is providing internet and mobile to millions of US Earthlings. That is another part of the business. AI is the third pillar of SpaceX, folded in just earlier this year, where it used to be its own standalone company. So pretty recent, but pretty important, because two of these pillars are losing a ton of money. The space division posted a loss last year of $657 million. Just in the first 3 months of this year, it is down another $662 million. AI, it is where a lot of money is being spent without a clear way to recoup that money. We're talking about a $6 billion loss in 2025 and another $2.5 billion in just the first quarter of 2026. What keeps this hulking machine turning is Starlink connectivity. It generated almost $4.5 billion in profit last year and is on track to do the same this year based on its Q1 results. But overall, SpaceX is spending far more than it makes, posting a nearly $5 billion loss for 2025 and nearly as much in just the first 3 months of 2026 when it acquired XAI. So that valuation of somewhere in the $2 trillion range. SpaceX assets don't add up to anywhere near that, and neither do its profits. To what extent it is speculation or sensible forecasting, that is a matter of judgment, but it doesn't represent current profits. It is some sort of expectation of what they'll be in about 20 years' time. And that is a big guessing game. Where will anything be in 20 years' time? Well, we can look to SpaceX SEC filing for some clues, because there is a regulatory obligation for it to acknowledge to shareholders what headwind risks are in the company's future. Starship, big promise but big peril. SpaceX recognizes a lot hinges on development, testing, and deployment of Starship at scale. If we are unable to achieve sufficient launch cadence, reusability, and capability, our ability to execute our growth strategy would be materially and adversely affected. Other hurdles, unforeseen technical challenges, supply chain disruptions, manufacturing difficulties, loss or damage to the vehicle or other components, regulatory hurdles, or the need for additional design modifications. These kinds of disclaimers are not unusual, but in the case of SpaceX, they are foundational to the point of being existential. SpaceX makes a point of acknowledging how it will rely on unproven technologies or technologies that do not exist or may require significant advancement, in such initiatives may not achieve commercial viability. Speaking of viability, do you know where a big part of SpaceX's current viability comes from? Our services are subject to risks related to supplying services to the US government. Let's talk about that today. It is about a man named Elon, and he is one of the greatest business leaders and innovators the world has ever produced. It is hard to deny that to the Trump administration. Musk is a known and valued quantity. Trump owes a great deal to Musk. Elon Musk gave around $75 million to his pro-Donald Trump super PAC in the span of 3 months. President Trump must win to preserve the Constitution. He must win to preserve democracy in America. And I am not suggesting there is a direct exchange of favors here, but Musk owes a great deal to the Trump administration. SpaceX is one of the biggest government contractors in the United States. Almost its entire launch revenue outside of Starlink comes from the US government, and you might argue rightfully so. SpaceX has a near monopoly on the heavy and manned launch market, sending cargo and people into space. So NASA and the Department of War give it a lot of money. But back to the company's future, facing risk. What if some or all of that were to disappear as quickly as, say, Elon Musk cleaned house with his Department of Government Efficiency, slashing contracts and even other departments wholesale? Not saying it LL happened, just saying it is a risk on social media and AI. Because key point here, X and the Grok chatbot are part of SpaceX. The company's regulatory filings point to increasing legislative and regulatory activity. Platform moderation, intellectual property, product liability, data privacy, age restrictions, data disclosure, cybersecurity, export controls, consumer protection, all of which are not directly within SpaceX's control. From time to time, we are involved in litigation, investigations, and other regulatory proceedings which could be costly, time-consuming, and divert management attention, materially adversely affecting our business. They saying they could get sued, and they do get sued. There are court cases and lawsuits having to do with everything from noise at SpaceX's data centers to environmental concerns over land swaps to property concerns over damage from rocket testing. And just to give you a window into a case dating back to the Biden administration and where legal issues can get very political, SpaceX has been sued even for the way it hires its talent. Again, lots of companies get sued, but not many get sued, like SpaceX gets sued. And bottom line, Musk's biggest companies are intertwined, not just in the way that SpaceX suddenly gobbled up XAI earlier this year, but also in the way, for example, that Tesla simply owns shares in SpaceX, millions of them. And over the years, all of Musk's biggest companies have at various points faced a very similar problem, which SpaceX continues to face today. We have a history of net losses and may not achieve profitability in the future. Our substantial level of indebtedness could materially adversely affect our financial condition. Translation, our massive amounts of negative money are a problem, and managing all of these problems. This whole galaxy of risk, it all goes back to one man. As a fairly passive investor myself, I can tell you when I buy shares in a company, I don't really care all that much about telling the company how to do its job, even if my shares technically get me votes on important issues. But I derive a lot of confidence in knowing that the company is accountable to shareholders in a way that hopefully forces it to act responsibly and in all of our best interests, but even in going public with its IPO. SpaceX works differently. What is on sale to the general public today and all of those 500 million shares that sold as part of the IPO? Those are all Class A shares. One share, one vote, a tiny smidge of control over the company. But there is another type of share that isn't ever for sale to the general public, and those are Class B shares. These are super shares where one share is worth 10 votes. You know who controls almost all of the company's Class B shares? Even after the IPO and after all the day trading that follows today, Elon Musk is figured to retain somewhere around 82% control of the company. This makes him unassailable as leader. Elon Musk has control over SpaceX in a way that we've never seen any individual hold over a publicly traded company. And when your mission statement is as expansive as building, quote, the systems and technologies necessary to make life multiplanetary to understand the true nature of the universe and to extend the light of consciousness to the stars, maybe you need that kind of authoritarian control.